Welcome to Western Water Weekly, your source of plain-spoken news highlights from the Colorado River Basin states. We'll start with the story that continues to loom over everything else. Negotiations between the 7 Colorado River Basin states have failed to produce an agreement on how to manage the river after 2026. That's a big deal, because without a deal, the federal government is expected to step in and set the rules. And those rules could mean deeper water cuts, especially for Arizona. Arizona is already preparing for a legal fight. The state has hired outside counsel and set aside millions of dollars for potential litigation. And here's where things get interesting. This isn't just about water anymore. It's about economics, agriculture, and even national security. State leaders are making the case that water cuts could ripple into everything from semiconductor manufacturing to food supply. Meanwhile, the upper basin states are basically saying, we already take the hit when snowpack is low. So right now, we have a classic Western standoff. Who takes the cuts, how much, and who gets to decide? And if that sounds like it's heading toward the Supreme Court, it very well might. Let's shift gears to regulation, because there's a lot happening here. In Sunland Park, New Mexico, residents are dealing with something far more personal than policy: unsafe drinking water. State officials say a local utility failed to properly treat arsenic and didn't adequately notify customers. The result is nearly $200,000 in fines, possible court-appointed oversight, and public meetings to address customers' concerns. This is one of those stories that reminds us, water law isn't just about rivers and reservoirs, it's about what comes out of your tap. Meanwhile, at the national level, lawmakers are turning their attention to something a lot of people don't think about until it's in their neighborhoods: data centers. A new proposal would require companies to disclose how much water and electricity they use. Because here's the reality: a single large data center can use as much water as 2,600 households. According to the bill's sponsor, Senator Dick Durbin, the number of facilities is rising quickly. There are roughly 4,000 active data centers across the country, with about 3,000 more either planned or already under construction. And with thousands more planned, many in rural areas, communities are starting to ask, wait, can we actually support this? In another federal proposal, there's a push to speed up small water projects. Proposed bipartisan legislation sponsored by Arizona's Senator Mark Kelly and Wyoming Senator Cynthia Lummis would allow certain low-impact projects to move forward without years of environmental review. Frankly, this one hits close to home for a lot of communities. Because right now, some projects sit in limbo for years, while costs rise and infrastructure keeps aging. The idea here is simple. If it's small, local, and already funded, why wait? Now let's talk solutions, because there are some encouraging developments this week. In Rio Communities, New Mexico, a water reclamation facility just expanded its capacity significantly. And here's the key idea. Instead of treating wastewater as something to dispose of, they're treating it as something to reuse. That recycled water will soon help irrigate a local park. And while that might sound small, it's actually part of a much bigger shift happening across the West. Every gallon reused is one less gallon pulled from drinking supplies. With every proposed solution, though, problems can arise. In California, federal water managers slightly increased Central Valley project water allocations after recent storms. Even so, the increase was only 5%. Municipal and industrial users south of the Delta received a slight boost, rising from 65% to 70% of their historic use or public health needs. Irrigation districts and contractors below the Delta are still getting only 20% of their allocation with the increase. Agricultural users are still getting only a fraction of normal supply, and groundwater pumping is increasing to make up the difference. Which raises a long-term concern. We're not just short on water, we're starting to borrow from the future. Up in Northern California, the future of the Potter Valley project is still uncertain. Last summer, Pacific Gas and Electric Company formally filed its surrender application and decommissioning plan for the Potter Valley project with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which opened a public comment period. This system is a hydroelectric and water diversion system that transfers about 60,000 acre-feet of water from the Eel River into the Russian River watershed to support agricultural, municipal, and environmental uses across Mendocino and Sonoma counties. What's unusual about this one is that another federal agency, the Department of Agriculture, has filed to intervene in the federal regulatory proceedings, arguing that the project needs to remain. And local communities are trying to figure out what comes next. Without the Potter Valley project, some projections show major shortages in the region. Finding a way to capture enough water could take decades. All right, let's talk about the part of the story that ties everything together: the drought. Utah just saw its snowpack peak early, and at about half of normal levels. Even worse, it peaked weeks earlier than usual, meaning less water later in the year. Nearly the entire state, about 98%, is now in drought conditions. In Colorado, Denver Water has officially declared a Stage 1 drought. Snowpack numbers are rough, at about 55% of normal in the Colorado River Basin, and even lower in the South Platte. Reservoirs are still fairly full, but without snow, they won't refill. So now the focus shifts from hope to management. Denver Water is recommending water use reductions, outdoor watering limits, and conservation. So where does that leave us heading into April? Across the West, conditions continue to swing between extremes. A few storms helped, but not enough to change the overall picture. We're looking at below-average snowpack, earlier melt, and increasing pressure on already stressed systems. That's why we're seeing more recycling, more regulation, and more legal preparation. The reality is, this isn't a temporary situation anymore. It's the new baseline. Thanks for joining us and sharing your thoughts in the comments. See you next week.
That wraps up this week's Western Water Weekly. All of the stories we covered are reported in full at western-water.com. Be sure to check back next Sunday for our next roundup. Thanks for watching.